Football is America's favorite sport. Fans gather together and form a special family around the team they call their own.
That team in this town is for some people like a religion, like it connects generations. They spend their Sundays at RFK and FedEx Field like some people spend their Sundays at church. And
this is three generations here.
Right here. Papa Monk is my dad, and then me, and then my son. So we have 3 generations coming.
Chipmunk, and then Brother Shunk over here.
2013, yeah!
With each team, there's a mascot, the symbol which each group and their fans use to represent the team they love. Over time, some of these mascots have changed because the names or images have offended a group of people. Some names have not changed. And in Washington, D.C., the national football team is the Washington Redskins.
I'm Ray Hulbritter, the representative of the Oneida Indian Nation, a proud sponsor of the NFL. When Washington's team visits your city this week, there is something you should know. The word Redskins is deeply hurtful to Native Americans. It is what our people were called as our lands were taken. It is the insult Native American parents heard as their children were taken. And sadly, it is the racial slur the NFL continues to use to describe the team that represents our nation's capital. It is simply wrong to use the offensive term Redskins to sell anything, much less an NFL team.
Hell no.
Very passionate, very loyal, and no, we're not changing the name.
I can't even go there. I can't even imagine not having a Redskin gear, a Redskin hat. I wouldn't like it at all.
No change in the name. We're 90% of the population is for the name.
I don't think there is a controversy. They're going to be the Redskins. I don't think it offends anybody. They could be talking about Redskin potatoes. Could be talking about Redskin peanuts.
I think they should not change the name at all because it's been around for 81 years now, and it's used. The way it's used to me is a way that is the opposite of being offensive. I mean, it's hail to the Redskins. Hail, it's respect. It's respectful, not disrespectful, in my opinion.
I think it's almost gotten to the point of ridiculous that it has caused the uproar that it has caused. I don't believe that it is that big a deal. I don't think that they should change their name. I think that the name is a badge of honor more than what the few people say it's a slur. I think it's more of a badge of honor, and that we should never change our name.
Keep the name the same.
Hail to the Redskins! Hail victory!
Pray all the more praise! Fight for all DC!
the only reason it hasn't changed yet is because they don't have the economic or political clout of other ethnic minorities. If this was the Blackskins, Jesse and Al are on Dan Snyder's doorstep yesterday. Hell, Barack is there. There is no Jesse, Al, or Barack Obama to stand up for the American Indian right now in this society.
You know, it's a very easy to understand point of view, which is that when someone's offended, they can say they're offended. But if you're not offended, then, you know, how does that impact you? I'm not sure. But when you're offended, you should be able to say that you're offended and then make change.
The Native American heritage and the name Redskin, for me, if you want to just throw it out there as a white guy, it doesn't, I don't see that as a negative connotation. Now, if there is anybody out there who does, you have to respect that, sure. But when I say that, I don't mean it as a sign of disrespect.
How many have to be offended? How many people have to say, my kid doesn't want to grow up with a self-image of being in a bad John Wayne Western. My kid doesn't want to be thought of as Pocahontas for the rest of her life. She actually wants to be a lawyer. She actually wants to be a swim coach. She actually wants to be a mechanic, whatever.
Obviously, people get pretty attached to team names, mascots. I don't think there are any Redskins fans that mean offense. I've got to say, if I were the owner of the team, and I knew that there was a name of my team, even if it had a storied history that was offending a sizable group of people, I'd think about changing it.
I think what we have to do, though, is we have to listen. If one person is offended, we have to listen.
In May of 2013, Washington's NFL team owner Dan Snyder said he would never change the name. 5 months later, he released a letter to the fans saying, "Like so many of you, I was born a fan of the Washington Redskins. I still remember my first Redskins game. That tradition, the song, the cheer, it mattered so much to me as a child, and I know it matters to every other Redskins fan in the D.C. area and across the nation. Our past isn't just where we came from, it's who we are."
For Dan Snyder to talk about his boyhood and talk about the first time he went into the stadium and he, heard the crowd roar or, take it in the way that he did, we could say the same thing for Native American children who go into that stadium and are confronted with the absolute universe of why people don't like Indians and why they, again, feel that they can take someone's culture and use it for their own profaneness, So what's the difference? The billionaire or, a citizen?
Yeah, I could see it being offensive, but there's a historical truth to it, and you can't just change the past by rewriting the future.
I do know that they were originally the Boston Braves, and then they didn't want to be affiliated with the Braves baseball team, or they wanted to be known that they were different. And then I know that they had a Native American coach at the time, and they changed it to the Boston Redskins, supposedly to honor him. So
there is a researcher who did go into the depths of what was initially the purpose for the name and where it came from, and did find that Mr. Dietz was not Native American, which he claimed.
William Lone Star Dietz was a guy who co-opted a real American Indian's identity, and he went to jail for it, for trying to get out of the draft. This is the guy the team was named after, a fake Indian.
Apparently that coach that they named after wasn't even Native American.
Yeah, I have heard that too, but
that changes anything.
I mean, no, there were supposedly 4 Native American players on the Redskins in the 37 season, I think, or 35 season that they changed it. I'm not sure, but no, I don't think it changes it. I mean, I think it's an honor personally that that they're called the Redskins.
I just like the tradition. I think that it was put in place because of tradition, and I'd like to keep the tradition. So I'm a fan of the name and always will be.
No, I don't think tradition is a good argument, because Native Americans have a much deeper, more in-depth tradition in the United States and in the Washington, D.C. area. So if we want to compare traditions and heritage, I don't think there's even a comparison.
There are worse traditions that we got rid of that involve killing people that didn't look like us. That's not a tradition anymore, thank God. And so
I think that it's all of a sudden one of those things that has been polarized by the media and by special interest groups and stuff like that. And to me, if it hasn't been an issue for the last 70 years, then I don't understand why it's an issue all of a sudden today.
And it jars me when people say, well, why are people just talking about this now? It's 2013. Well, we have been talking about it. We're just a small voice. We are a very small voice. We're 2.4% of the population. So, out of a room of 1,000 people, can you hear one voice? It's very hard. And so hopefully they're listening now.
This change the mascot forum on the importance of eliminating the last vestige of racist images, call it mascotting, if you will, of a people who in their own languages call themselves human beings.
Let me speak as an African American in a city where the majority of the population, about 50-50, is African American. I don't see how anyone who has gone through our historic experience can fail to identify with Native Americans who are raising this issue. Need I remind them of the terms that have been attached to us in history, and how the moment we hear one of those terms, you've got an uprising virtually. Even if somebody made a mistake, that's how those terms affect people. Even when some of those terms have, by the way, been seen as terms of endearment. You know, this is what we called our darkies. So not all of them were the pejoratives you hear. Many of them were uncle and aunt and other things. Don't you dare use those terms now. Because we are 10% of the population, and the only difference between us and our Native American brothers and sisters is they are 2 or 3% of the population. And the average American has not had to have the same kind of contact with them that they have had with African Americans. And of course, we have mounted a movement that acquainted people all across the United States with us.
People that are making a voice for Native Americans. And that to me is the most important part that came out of that symposium.
Clearly the momentum is growing for the name to change. I mean, Bob Costas on the Sunday night football game a week ago, you know, did a commentary in opposition to the name. So that hit millions of people. And if we can strike their curiosity and get them to read, you know, some material, over time, you know, the movement will grow, and we believe that Washington football team will have to change its name.
If there was really an outpouring from the Native American community, more so here locally, I think people would listen, because the intent and the motivation is certainly not there to belittle the Native Americans. We respect them completely. So, I don't know. I would vote for changing the name, but I also understand both sides of the equation.
Right. Whatever you want to call it.
Because we bleed burgundy and gold.
It's all burgundy and gold. And you know what I'm saying? The name can change, the spirit will never die.
I've been a Redskins fan for as long as I can remember. And if they changed the name to the Bravehearts or the Washington Warriors, I'd still cheer for them because they're still my team. And that's really what it boils down to.
It's when people have been racist for a long time, it's hard for them to acknowledge or understand that they need to change their ways. So, you know, Native Americans have been hated since the beginning of America. And so wanting to change that mindset is going to take more than changing a name. It's going to take more than changing a mascot, but at least it won't be around. At least that won't be a part of my daily life as someone who lives in Washington, D.C.